I'm going to go ahead and get us started on the New York note as we talk about New York. So go, yay New Yorkers, who I believe are getting another 5 inches of snow in the next 2 days. If you hadn't heard, we're also supposed to get 1 to 3 inches from Friday night into Saturday morning. In case you had not heard that, I didn't mean to come on with the weather, but just in case, because that was unexpected for me too. Welcome, greetings. Welcome to our first lunch event of 2024 as we are back. So thank you so much for showing up for us. And I want to welcome all of you, including any guests that we have. Do we have any guests today? We do. We have one. Any guests that would not be absolutely embarrassed to introduce themselves and let us know who they are? Because I saw kind of a shaking of a hand. Yes? Please. Oh, we're all friends. We are all friends. You know what? We're about to have Deb come up and do some type of an exercise. So we're all going to get so close, so fast. We're going to all know each other. So there's no embarrassment. I think JR has the mic.
Well, I'm Bill Turner, and this is my guest. Well, I'm just saying. Well, you asked if we had any guests that was with us. And so my name is Bill Turner, and I've been a member for about 10 years. And I have a guest, Susan Nesselroth, and she has been here a couple times before, I think 2 or 3 times. So she's here.
Thank you. Welcome back. Thanks. And I think, JR, right behind you.
Yes, my name is Mark Conhetty, and I'm a new member. This is my first meeting and first luncheon.
Yay, thanks for joining. I think that was it. Do we have any other guests today? No, it's quiet. Okay, I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Cindy Gwelly. I am president of AOI this year. So welcome to new members, old members. Thank you. And a proud New Yorker, but also proud DCer. That's here. So welcome. We're happy to have you here. If on that very note, since Mark is a new member, for all of you who have renewed, thank you so much. For all of you that have not renewed for 2024, we have many ways for you to do so. You can go to the members portal online and go ahead and do it that way. We do have some forms for you at the back table if you want to pick one up and do it right now. We're happy to take that from you, and you can renew on the spot or take it with you and mail it back to us. The address is on there as well. But please, we are in our renewal phase, and we have had a lot of them come in, but we are still looking for more. So if you haven't, please do so. And if you have any trouble doing so, please contact us, and we are happy to help you do that as well. We have, speaking of getting to know you, we are going to be reintroducing our About Our Members column in our newsletter that is going to be coming up in our next newsletter. So we would love to know more about you. So if you have a chance to send us a few paragraphs about your connection to DC, how you are able to be a member of AOI, what your connection to the city is, your family's connection, so that we can get to know more about each other, but also have it on record for our files so that we have a historical record of our members as well. All right. In keeping that mission of preserving DC's history, we have an announcement to make that we're very proud about. We at AOI, the board members, have voted to provide the seed money for the DC Archives Foundation. We have a Thank you. I think it's very exciting. We had Lopez Matthew come to talk to us about the archives and the building that they're working on. That's going to be on the UDC campus. So that is still in progress. They're still working on their collections. That is still going forward. What they need is a foundation, a nonprofit, to help them with other projects, other expenses that will not be covered by the city. And that is what this nonprofit is going to do. So we, AOI, are providing them seed money for their incorporation of this foundation. And they will, as soon as we have more information about them kind of getting up and getting going, and if anybody would like to make further donations for it and what they might be working on, we will certainly let you know. But we're excited to have that for AOI to be connected with finally the physical structure and the creation of the DC Archives. We are also going to be involved in the 50th anniversary of the DC History Conference this year. It was going to be taking place at the MLK Library. It's April 4th through 6th. And on April 5th, they are going to have a history networking event in the afternoon. And AOI will have a presence there. So if you are going to be at the conference, please stop by, say hello, share AOI's information with everybody that you know that's there. And we'll give you some more information about that as it comes up, as well as information about the conference itself. They do not have their programming finalized and out yet, but we'll let you know when they do. I am going to pass this along to Bill. So that Bill can tell us about another fundraising campaign that AOI has a connection to as well.
Are you going to stand up here with the hook in case I get too verbose? I have been known to go on for too long. It's not in my interest to do so because I edit the videos and I'll be editing myself out. A couple of brief announcements. What Cindy started with is the Friendship Fire Association Museum down New Jersey Avenue. I don't want to give the whole history of AOI's association with the veteran volunteer firefighters, but basically for 108 years, we maintained or kept their antique apparatus and bells and all on their behalf until the museum, no one knew back then there was going to be a museum, was able to display them and all. So in 2015, we deaccessioned all those things to the Friendship Fire Museum. Those of you that are familiar with the AOI's participation in the Palisades 4th of July parade, you know, for a number of years, we ran the 1908 American La France steam pumper in that parade. And it was in rather decrepit state. So the Friendship Fire Association Museum has started a campaign for the cosmetic preservation of that piece of apparatus. It's not going to be fighting fires, but they want to make sure that the wheels are replaced and the, rust is abated and it's painted and everything. So it's a $50,000 campaign, which I understand. It's going to be done up in Massachusetts, I think. They have a brochure about it, and it has a barcode on it if you want to donate. I only have one copy of this and I'll put it at the back table someplace if you want to scan it. The information is also on AOI's website under, I think, the second tab or so, AOI History, our affiliation with the fire department, or some tab like that. So anyhow, I encourage you. AOI is not directly supporting it because in 2015, as part of our gala sesquicentennial, we gave the Friendship Fire Association $25,000 that year, basically for their educational programs and all. So AOI is not directly contributing to it, but we support, our members and encourage our members to give a little bit towards their goal of restoring that piece of apparatus. Andrea.
Have they found a new director for that museum?
You mean since Walter Gold passed? Embry? There's some people that are in charge of it, and I've been told by Chris Oliphant, who's a firefighter and part of this, that they're doing well. But I would also encourage you, if you do donate, to make it in memory of Jim Embry, because Jim was our fire department liaison for many years with AOI. So that achieves that purpose. Also, speaking of the website, at the encouragement of John Edwards, actually sort of embarrassed me into it, I've uploaded every AOI newsletter since 1908. No, I didn't do that. Since 2008 onto the website. So there's actually a newsletter archive now on AOI's website that you can access if you think there's something you missed. I built it in such a way I've got all of our past speakers for the last 25 years or so. So if you go to that page and search, Nelson Ryman Snyder, okay, each instance of Nelson Ryman Snyder, there'll be a lot of them, will pop up. And then if you see Nelson's talk on such and such, then I've written in there, then you go to the newsletter for the month following that, because that's where the account of Nelson's talk would be. So we hope that works. I'll continue uploading current ones, but I'm not backloading anything else because they're not on my computer at home. And finally, I was going to say a few words about Tom Neal. I don't know if everyone here knows that Cindy's immediate predecessor, and by the way, hands off to Cindy and the new leadership of AOI has just done an excellent job. They brought technology where those of us in the past feared to tread, and have done a lot of innovative programs and had programs on months when we were too lazy to do things. So they really deserve a lot of praise for that. Tom Neal served as AOI's president for 2 years prior to Cindy. He was her immediate predecessor. And he passed away on July 23rd after sort of a brief illness, but he'd been struggling with some health. Oh, what did I say? Did I? January. I'm already ahead of myself. January 23rd, but he'd had some health issues and everything. I was unable to attend his memorial because I was sort of indisposed myself. That's another story. But I have a couple funny stories about Tom that I wanted to share with people, and I'm not even sure it would have been an opportunity at his wake and service and everything. So Tom went to Georgetown University. He lived over on Q Street and down MacArthur Boulevard, a few blocks from where my sister Hewlett and I live. We'd cross paths when he was running by Georgetown Valet 3, in the last 10 years to pick up his dry cleaning. He lived in Glover Park and was the president of his condo association. And he was in the process of transitioning to Ingleside or someplace like that last fall when we last saw him here at a luncheon before, his health took a downturn. But years ago, I recruited Tom, he'd been a faithful member, to the board because I knew, like Nelson, they both worked at the Congressional Research Service, and Tom was so much younger than so many of us, I thought, well, someday Tom could be Nelson's successor as historian, as an officer of AOI, et cetera. So Tom got on the board, and Tom would provide his historic quips and all to us, and we'd include things in the newsletter and his observations on stuff and help guide us, and only to find out that actually he was older than I was. And it's like, what? So anyhow, so Tom rose to be president. He succeeded Jan Evans, who was our first woman president, and he shared a love, and this was not mentioned in his obituary, I don't think, with the SUVC, the Sons of the Union Veterans of the Civil War. So whether he was a SAR or not, that might go too far back. He was from Pennsylvania. He was a SUVC. He and I would trade off the Commemoration Day events at Arlington Cemetery as a speaker, and Tom would go one year, I'd go the next year for their annual May 30th events over there. So he had a great love for that. I was a little kind of disappointed that it wasn't mentioned in his obituary. Finally, I guess the last thing I wanted to say about him was Tom, saw this organization through the pandemic. It would have been very easy for everyone to say, oh, masks, everything's closed, we're just going to go into our rabbit holes for a couple of years until this is over. But Tom worked with the Annunciation Church up on Massachusetts Avenue. They had a huge guild hall, and he'd have us at he'd have the board at tables that were like 12 feet apart. It was like, are you here or not? And he oversaw all of that and allowed the board to continue to not only survive, but to turn it over to the new leadership and do some other initiatives over the last couple of years where any other organization would have just washed their hands and been done of it. So Tom Neal was a great guy, and he's going to be missed, and I hope that his memory and all remains with those of you who knew him and all. Thank you, Cindy.
We actually have another sad passage to note, and actually for that I'm going to turn it over to Tim.
Thank you so much, Cindy. My name is Tim Hannipel, and for those of you here who were here in November, we had a presentation about Captain George Poynter, along with my dear friend James Fisher, who is an 8th-generation descendant of Captain Poynter. And I have the sad news to report that James passed away on January 22nd at home unexpectedly, but we didn't know that he had issues with blood clotting. But I want to thank you all who were here in November, because we didn't know it, but it was kind of James's last hurrah. And he had had a tremendous purpose in life the last decade. Part of what you hear is that he didn't know about this ancestor until about 2011 or 2012. And it would have made such a huge difference in James's life to know that he had this illustrious ancestor who worked for George Washington and who was the superintendent engineer of the Potomac Canal, a free black man, bought his freedom from slavery. So I want to thank you all for participating in that event. And it was a great day for James. Two of his sisters were here. There's a lot of other family here. And it's all recorded, on the video, which his sisters have. So I want to thank you all and bring you that sad news. But also thank you to AOI for allowing us to put on that program. It was really meaningful for James. Thank you.
And for us too. Thank you. Well, he did. If you missed it, it is available on the YouTube channel as well as on our website. You can take a look at, and for those of you who want a further history of that, the book that they talked about went further into the Broad Branch Road and Chevy Chase and the strategic segregation. Part of that was adding to African American history in D.C. If you are interested in getting more involved with that for the rest of Black History Month, there are a couple of ways to do that. The National Park Service has some programming, walking tours and tours. I think you can be led by Mary McLeod Bethune around some of those neighborhoods. Those are all free and require some registration, but over the next 2 weeks, they do have some of that programming around, and it's very DC oriented in terms of getting more of DC history out of that. In case you did not know, Library of Congress has a late night that they are open every week, Thursday nights. You can go and explore their exhibits as well as some of the documents and other artifacts that they have at the Library of Congress. And those two are specifically geared towards Black History Month. So it's every Thursday. You also need a timed entry pass for that, but that is free as well. Loretta had, I think, on that note, 2 events to talk about.
Thank you. I'm Loretta Newman. I'm here for 2 reasons. First of all, next Tuesday, we're going to have Frank Smith. I'm also, besides being a longtime member of AOI, I'm a member of the Women's National Democratic Club. And next Tuesday, we're having Frank Smith, who's, many of you know, he was a past member of the D.C. Council for like 4 terms and wonderful. But he also was the founder and is now the director of the African American Civil War Memorial and Museum, and he's going to be speaking here on Tuesday for lunch. And I have some flyers. I don't have enough for everybody, but I'll put a few on each table, and then you can share, so you can sign up. And then the second is on, I'm also, another hat, I'm the co-founder and past president of the Alliance to Preserve the Civil War Defenses of Washington, and I just wanted to let you know, I always pipe up every year. Our 160th anniversary is going to be this summer, July 13th. Put it on your calendar. I'll be back with flyers and information later and with more about the program and all that. But I also just want to give you an opportunity that if you are someone that is a reenactor or a potential speaker or would like to volunteer, or whatever, just let me know and I'll add you to the list and make sure you get involved.
Thank you. And actually, we've got one last event. Cliftine, did you want to mention your event?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. So on February the 29th, and thank you, Cindy, I appreciate it, at the Arts Club, we're having a program called Songs of Freedom, which we had here last year. And if anyone's interested, please go to the Arts Club website. And it's about Harriet Tubman, and the code songs that freed some of the unfortunate slaves. And this lady who's created this program has done it beautifully. And she's made the walk, the 20-some miles or whatever, from Cambridge, Maryland to Pennsylvania. And she's also the curator of the Harriet Tubman Museum. She's a volunteer, but she's done fabulous work. They've been to Panama with her program, and they're going to Japan. They've been invited to Japan. So it's really worthwhile. So if anyone has any questions, just please let me know. And Marcy has introduced me to a gentleman, Dana Nearing, who will open the program with a song. So thank you, Marcy. So thank you so much, Cindy, for allowing me to give that information. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you, everybody.
So you have no
I just want to say it'll be fabulous.
So you have every opportunity to get involved with Black History Month in DC for the next 2 weeks. There are plenty of opportunities. If for some reason you missed any of that, contact us. We'll be happy to point you to any of these events that we've been talking about.
And I appreciate anyone who's interested, because I got a message from the president of the club this morning that they might have to cancel it because there has not been a great response. So I'm inviting my table as my guest, and Marcy's my guest. But it's important, and I think the history shouldn't be forgotten. And it's really a great program. As I said, it was here last year. We had many, many people. So God bless you. I appreciate it if you can join us.
And it's an extra day anyway, right? It's February 29th, so it was an extra day. So you weren't doing anything that day anyway, so you can go. Our next gathering is going to be March 21st. And the title of our next gathering, of our presentation, is Mystery Solved, Why There Were Two AOIs and How They Are Connected Through One Common Ancestor. And yes, we are going to, you probably know the answer in a short way. We're going to get the extended discussion about that with Bill Brown and Sherry Sewell, our board members, and how those two things come together and what it tells us about DC history and the evolution of DC history and race relations as well. So it should be really fascinating to see how this all came together. So that is going to be Thursday, March 21st. Today, we have one of the 2023 Washingtonians of the Year, Deb Gottesman, who's going to be here to talk to us. If you are not familiar with her background, Deb is the co-founder and co-director of the Theater Lab. She is a professional actor. She's performed at just about every area theater, Woolly Mammoth, Arena Stage, Signature Theater, Keegan Theater, among many others. We've got good energy in the crowd today. All right. She has directed more than 30 productions at the Theater Lab, including The Prom, The Hello Girls, Alex in Wonderland, which was a world premiere, Jesus Christ Superstar, and Ragtime, as well as productions for Catholic University's Musical Theater Department and for National Geographic. She's also the director of the Theater Lab's Life Stories programs, designed to amplify the voices and stories of people from historically underrepresented populations, through which she developed and directed a play called My Soul Looked Back in Wonder, which was created and performed by formerly homeless women in recovery, and it premiered at Kennedy Center's Terrace Theater, a one-night-only performance, and is the subject of a feature-length documentary called How I Got Over. Deb received her MFA from Catholic University and has taught drama at Roundhouse, Woolly Mammoth, and American University. She's a 2003 recipient of the prestigious Linnau's Leadership Award for her contributions to art education and has been a featured speaker on the TEDx stage. And along with her Theater Lab co-director, Buzz Morrow, she has co-authored 3 books on applied acting published by Penguin Putnam, if that wasn't enough. And we are lucky enough to have her here today to talk to us about theater arts education. And hopefully we're going to have a very active, energetic, great time with all of the forms that you filled out, because I'm very excited to see how that all comes to fruition. So Deb, I pass it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for that beautiful introduction. I'm very honored to be here. And I'm a DC native, actually, which I forgot to let you know. So this is especially meaningful. Yes, we are going to get to an activity that has to do with those forms on your table. If you filled it out, fantastic. If you wrote a few things down, fantastic. If you want to take a pass, fantastic. I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers who want to demonstrate a few exercises with it at the end of my talk. I've already met some very dramatic people at my table, so I'm looking forward to that. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit. As you heard in the intro, and in the spirit of full disclosure, I need to confess something. I am an actor. Well, I appreciate that. People didn't always feel that way, which is what I'll talk about. Before I talk about the Theater Lab and the intersection of theater education and social welfare here in DC, I thought I would give a quick historical perspective on the role actors have played in society. For much of human history, actors were among the world's most reviled citizens. Generally regarded as fools, frequently described as madmen, periodically burned at the stake, and until the 18th century, forbidden the sacraments of the church in Italy and Spain unless they forswore their vile profession. So you can see why I'm especially honored that you would invite me to speak here today. No, times have obviously changed. In fact, there is widespread acknowledgement that, the theater arts actually offer something of value in our society, which it sounds like there are already some true believers in this room. But did you know that students involved in the dramatic arts outscore non-arts involved students on the SATs by an average of 65 points on the verbal component? And perhaps more surprisingly, by 34 points on the math component. People don't typically make that link. And that's that in low-income neighborhoods, the dropout rate for students involved in the dramatic arts is significantly lower than for those who are not, and that students who are involved in the dramatic arts demonstrate a significantly higher self-concept, empathy, and racial tolerance than those counterparts who have no dramatic arts involvement. But even in the face of these statistical realities, most DC public schools don't have any theater teachers. In fact, even just a few years ago, out of the 153 DC public schools, there were only 11 theater or dance teachers, and 7 of them were at Duke Ellington School for the Performing Arts, which is a great place, but that left 4 for 153 schools. So how do we ensure that the real life benefits of arts education are reaching everybody, and perhaps people who need them the most? The Theater Lab School of the Dramatic Arts, which I co-founded almost 32 years ago now, is Washington's largest theater school. Our mission is to transform lives through theater education. And as the statistics I quoted tell you, that's exactly what theater training is designed to do. Theater education has the power to transform a life by teaching us that we are not only all of who we are, but also all of who we could be. Well, thanks. And actually, the best acting teacher I ever had when I was in graduate school at Catholic University, actually, for those of you who are historians, you know that Catholic University had sort of a long theater tradition with Father Harkey. And Father Harkey's, I didn't quite intersect with Father Harkey, although one of his disciples, William Graham Sr., who was really beloved, was my teacher. And he used to say that he believed that we all had all 88 keys of the piano inside of us. But most of us were used to playing ourselves in just one octave. So acting was the search for the other 80 keys. And I love that image. Because in the end, acting actually is just like the art of being human. And so you take on thoughts and emotions and circumstances that maybe didn't exactly happen to you or fit with your habit, but they could have. And so that nothing human is alien to us, which is a perspective that I really appreciate. So each year at the Theater Lab, more than 2,700 students from all walks of life take our classes. from kids now as young as 4 through seniors. And while some of our acting students are training to be professional actors, most come because they're interested in the real life benefits of theater training. Improved public speaking skills, which always puts like extra pressure on me if I'm public speaking, because it's like if I suck, then I'm really not making the case for what we do. Improved self-confidence, heightened creativity, and the ability to collaborate with others, all that kind of stuff. Wanting to sort of break out of your cubicle and do something creative and collaborative. And we want to make sure that those benefits are not limited to people who have the means to seek them out. So at Theater Lab, many of our students have never had the opportunity to participate in a drama program or have never seen a live play. With the support of our community, we're proud to have awarded more than $140,000 in need-based scholarships this past summer for young people to participate in our summer acting and musical theater camps for kids and teens. And actually, one of our great supporters is here today, and so wanted to say thank you, Jeffrey Slavin, for what you make possible. Most of the kids who study with us will not become professional actors, which might be a good thing. The world doesn't need an endless number of professional actors. But they will, as one mother recently told us, learn to confront shyness or speak up or even speak in a class or experience the joy of creative collaboration. And we're also happy to report that one of our longtime scholarship students, who's been studying at Theater Lab since she was 8 years old, then went on to Juilliard on a scholarship and recently starred with Viola Davis in The Woman King, and can now be seen as Betty Shabazz in the TV series MLK X, which is fantastic. So sometimes people go on to do this, but she's also gone on to be a wonderful spokesperson for what the arts can do in everyday life. So one of the ways that we fulfill our mission in this community is by making quality theater training accessible to all. The other is through our Life Stories program, where we work with people whose voices too often go unheard in our society, and we help them create and perform original dramatic works based on their lived experiences. So this initially began back in the year 2000 as a monologue and storytelling workshop for seniors. Life Stories has now grown to include multiple programs each year for justice-involved youth and adults, immigrant teens, people in recovery. You heard about the project that we did at the Kennedy Center with women from N Street Village, homeless families, LGBTQIA youth and seniors, wounded veterans and families grieving the loss of a military loved one, and many others. Actually, recently, we did a program with DC women who have lost their children to gun violence. And I know it's unthinkable, but they have come together as a group and were already engaged in some really marvelous advocacy efforts. And they said, we want to do something on the artistic plane, both as a way of coming together and healing and working through some of what has happened, but also as a way of letting other people know that they're not alone and growing our community. And they call themselves the Strong Ass Mothers. And their performance was unbelievable. And it was funny, and it talked a lot about who their kids were and who they were as mothers. And it was also a beautiful tribute to the children that they've lost. And it was also a tremendous call to action. We're going to remount that show with them. And I'll keep this group posted if you want about where that's going to be. The Washington Post ended up doing a front page article on both the group and the show that they did earlier in the fall. And so you can actually just sort of look up Life Stories, mothers who have lost children to gun violence, if you want to read the deep dive, which was really beautifully written. But stories are what connect us to each other, to the humanity that we share. But when people are incarcerated or unhoused or recovering from addiction or labeled in any other way, their stories are often told for them. And, if they're told at all. So using theater to help people become the storytellers of their own lives has been one of the great joys of my life. But rather than me tell you about the work of Life Stories, because a lot of it is just sort of about doing. I thought I would show it to you in action. What we're going to cue up here is a video from some of the work that we did in 2022, just because some of the 2023 works are like still in process. And this spans 4 different programs, and you'll see that we're sort of still coming out of the pandemic when we were doing some of this work. Thanks.
The thing that I like most about working at Theater Lab is the people. It's like a family, it's a community, and this is a place where you truly feel like you belong.
So we're gonna do our check-in because we're an ensemble and we have each other's back so that we can continue to be our full, whole selves on this stage.
Life Stories is a program that is not about actors on stage, it's about people. And the people whose voices get to be shared are people whose voices don't normally get to be heard. The process of Life Stories is coming in that first session, and right away we start sharing stories and finding connections.
It was amazing how we organically connected and bonded and was able to create a space that felt safe for us to be vulnerable and free to share our stories.
So the first one is very easy. Give me 3 to 5 things, foods you loved as a child. One word, maybe a phrase. And then you're going to look at this and create a sort of poem or something that comes together from all of these words.
And through using different games, using different exercises, we get people out of their shell a little bit.
I am a student, I am an actor, I'm a theater kid, I am struggling with myself, and I am Black.
And then that allows us to then build the frame for what our final piece will look like.
So if you want to just take a deep breath. You ready?
Born ready.
I knew it.
Thinking about why Life Stories matters is like a very personal, deep question for me because I know what it is to be silenced.
I am a child of Chocolate City, where I know the difference between gunshots and fireworks.
I am my own imagination of a sunset on a beach.
I am from corn and tobacco fields.
I'm from where love is.
Speaking in tongues. I'm from souls that speak without sound. I'm from mountains.
Those stories might have never been told, never been shared. A lot of people are like, oh, I haven't shared this with anybody, or nobody ever asked. And so to be able to create a space where a story goes from nobody ever asked to being able to go, this story is worthy of putting on stage and people need to hear it.
You looking for my injuries? That's like looking for the enemy. It's all in what you don't see.
Walk these halls because I'm the leader and I'm the real deal. I'm going to walk these halls because I'm the leader and I'm the real deal.
You know, there's an accepted way for stories to go, and with Life Stories, there's no set script that you have to conform to. You can just tell your story.
Being on stage really served as a way to amplify the story to others so that we have this opportunity to share.
I love that Life Stories is truly a program for everyone. It is the community arm of the Theater Lab.
My name is Susan Wingate, United States Air Force.
My name is Tamika Light, United States Army.
We see you. We hear you. We are nurse educators, and these are our stories.
I think it's really important for communities to be able to, in their own voices, share their perspective and to not have other people speak for them. So this work truly matters.
Where we come from, our people, our community, the people who came before us, and the people who showed us the way forward. Legacy is history.
This is my future legacy.
This is my legacy.
That is my future legacy.
You can see that we're so lucky to work with amazing partners and participants. And I want to give a special shout out to the woman who was teaching and narrating in that, Brianda Minix, who we were lucky enough to meet as a student in our professional actor training program. And it just was so clear that she also had the heart of a teacher. And so she's one of our terrific life stories instructors. So, you know, there's nothing like taking control of your own narrative. And by sharing stories, we help our audiences see that we are much more alike than we are different. And on that note, before we get into the Q&A or anything else, I'd love for you all to have a chance to participate in the exercise that you saw so featured there. It's one of my favorite life stories exercises, and it's called I Am From. And I'm going to ask at this point if there are some folks out there who have written some things down on their piece of paper who might like to join me for a demonstration here. And I'd love to have 6 people. 1, 2.
Helen.
If you do it, I'll do it. Helen is shy.
I believe in true, volunteer. Helen over here. Come on up. Great. So let me have the 3 people who have already volunteered, and then I've got you.
Oh, you got me?
Yeah, I got you. And I'm looking for a couple more. Oh, great. Thank you. I tend to be very loud, but great. Anybody else? And it doesn't have to be something that is full on. Oh, terrific. Please come on up. And one more. Fantastic. Thank you. You all are great. We really appreciate you. Let me just ask out here, so if there's one thing that somebody wrote down that they don't mind, if you're not coming up on stage, but one thing that you wrote down that you wouldn't mind sharing. And great.
So many shy people.
No, we got somebody right over here.
I only filled out 1 item.
Perfect.
But you asked about 3 characteristics of the town you grew up in.
Yes.
I have only 1 word: arts. And that's it.
I love that.
I knew Father Hockey.
You knew Father Harkey. I love it. So if you were going to participate now in this piece, you would take what you had on your list and you would state it with the preface, I am from. So in your case, and what's your name?
Carl.
In your case, Carl, you would say, I am from arts, right? And while that might seem strange, like I might not say I'm from arts, I mean, I appreciate that the city is arts, but that's the structure of how this goes. So thank you very much for sharing. Do we have another one out here? Do I have one up here that somebody's willing to share?
Meaning?
One of the things you wrote down?
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's why I'm up here.
Right. Let's hear you.
I have to say?
I am from.
Ooh. I am from music that that has influenced my life. Anything by Joni Mitchell, Judy Collins, Peter, Paul and Mary, Phil Oakes, Carole King, the Beatles, etc.
Okay, great. And so your I am from would be I am from Joni Mitchell, Peter, Paul and Mary, the others that were on your list, Judy Collins. So I am from those people, which again might seem strange. How about one over here, Andrea?
I am from educator parents who taught us that education is the key to all. Travel is education, and they always end curiosity.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. So now I'm going to ask that you dare to mix and match. So now you're going to maybe pick something from your food category, a food you loved or hated, and pair it with that educator parents piece. Okay, so you're going to say, I am from Eggs Benedict on a Sunday morning and educator parents who's, can I just hear what you picked?
I am from educator parents who tried to feed me tripe. It sucks.
Great.
I still hate it.
Great. And what you can, Judy, can we hear a couple of yours?
I am?
Yeah, I am from.
I am from architecture.
Love it.
I grew up at 11th and Mass, right near the Carnegie Library. I love architecture, and my church was there. And I love being in Washington because the architecture is grand, it's classical. In my neighborhood of Cleveland Park, it's innovative. I am architecture.
I love it. Beautiful. By the way, Theater Lab is located at 9th and Mass in the historic Mount Vernon Place United Methodist Church, so right by the Carnegie Library.
I was going to ask where it was.
And now you know. So that I am from architecture, and then we got that beautiful specificity. Is there something else on your list?
Foods?
Yeah, what's a food?
I love architecture and ice cream.
Okay. I am from, and note that I'm being sort of specific about the structure here. It's not I am, and it's not I like. It is I am from architecture. And did you have a kind of ice cream written on there? Or a special favorite kind of ice cream?
I love vanilla, chocolate, raspberry.
Great.
Butter pecan.
I am from architecture and every kind of ice cream. Or I am from architecture and vanilla, chocolate, raspberry, butter pecan ice cream. Okay? So as strange as this sounds, we're going to mix and match those things. I've got some other folks who I'm going to ask to step up onto the stage. And I'm going to keep you here.
Yeah, you haven't used me.
Haven't used you enough? No. Well, we haven't got there yet. Okay. And so can you jump around your page, and every time you say a new thing, you can say I am from and list that thing. And of course, you all can be thinking about how you would do that with your own. And sometimes you can say I am from this and that and connect different categories. So we're basically creating a poem here, an individual poem out of what you wrote. Go ahead.
I am from great natural beauty and hard work.
Beautiful. And if you were going to keep going, let's just say, okay, you're up. Now you get to do that whole, whatever you want as a poem. You can go in any order. You can mix and match. You're just going to keep saying these things, and every once in a while you're going to remind us, I am from, and start sentences that way. Go ahead.
So, like a song, maybe.
Sure, but you're going to speak it.
I am from the times they are a-changing.
Great. And now connect that to some other things. Meaning it doesn't have to be a logical connection. You're just going to read some more stuff off of your page.
And from my great Auntie Lane.
Beautiful. Thank you. And David, do you want to give us a few of yours?
Food I hated as a child, Brussels sprouts. I still do. I was taught honesty as a child. I continue to be honest.
Great, great. So I'm going to pause you here, and now we're going to put that in the I am from structure. I am from hating Brussels sprouts as a child, and I still do, and I am from honesty, and I still am. So you're going to start whatever you say with the words I am from. And you go ahead and you can give us any part of what you've got, David.
I am from my first wife. I am from my first girlfriend. I am from my current wife.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Great. Now, we've got a series of potential individual poems, and you're possessing a series of potential individual poems there as well. I'm going to ask each of you to take 2 steps forward, please, and make a line across the front of the stage so I can stand behind you. Because
It's like a chorus line?
it's very much like a chorus line. It's, in fact, a chorus poem or a choral poem. And so here's how this is going to work. I'm just going to check my time here. Oh, we're great. The way this is going to work is that I'm going to, is it okay if I tap you on the back? And if it's not, if they find that startling, just let me know. We can figure out a different signal. But I would touch you like that. When I tap you, I want you to start speaking what you've written down in the form of I am from this and that I am from this other thing and that other influence, and you're just going to keep going. You can repeat as much as you need to. You're going to keep talking until I tap you again, when you'll stop. And this is like a little practice round here. So what we'll probably hear right now is a series of short individual poems, okay? And you've got your page here, so it's basically like the poem is already written for you. Of course, if you want to add some things, feel free to do that. And when I tap you, just go ahead.
I am from Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. I am from Margaret, the best art teacher ever. I am from playing in the stream in the river behind our house in Xenia, Ohio. I am from a town, Xenia, Ohio, that was proud that it's the home of the Shawnee Chief Tecumseh. I am from great neighborhoods where everybody kept an eye on each other.
Beautiful. You go ahead.
I am from being off script. I don't like the questions. I am from wannabe an architect. Judy, I don't know if you knew this. I am from wannabe actor or actress, and this is not challenging enough for me because I really wanted to get into this movement and singing.
Tap you right out. I'm coming back to you.
I am from architecture. I worked in architecture. I always wanted to be an architect, but I couldn't because I was a woman. But I still am a woman, and I worked in architecture, and I love ice cream. I love ice cream.
Great, and give us the I am from.
And I grew up in a place that was changing rapidly. I grew up in Friendship Heights, and it was building, building, building. I watched building. And then I rode the scooter around the golf course, and I got to look at the back of houses.
Great. And when we come back to it, I just want to ask you to start every sentence with I am from and keep all the other great stuff that you've got.
That's Oscar-worthy.
Here we go.
I am from Loving Corn on the Cob. I am from the dinosaur room in the Museum of Natural History. I am from being polite. I am from a seat of power.
Great. And can you connect some things as you go on? This is great. Give us some ands.
I am from, can we do significant people?
Sure. You can jump all around the page.
Oh, okay. I am from my husband that I've known since I was 16. I am from a town with diversity and heart, and I am from hard work.
Songs that I've loved throughout my life. Jerusalem. Mother of Man. That's from Yale. Men of Harlech. Love that. Honesty. Definitely.
Great. And I'll pause you here. Beautiful. And when we come back to this, I'm just going to ask that you start every sentence with I am from as you read your list. And now we're going to move into the challenge round, which you might really like. Feel free to do an interpretive dance while we are doing this. This time, I'm going to tap you, and you'll start speaking when I tap you. And then I'll probably tap some other people in, as you could see in the video, that there'll be people speaking simultaneously. And that's okay. You keep saying your stuff. You may hear other things, and that might inspire you. That's okay. But you keep going until I tap you back out. Okay? So you'll probably end up repeating some things because you don't have an endless list. What was your question?
We just keep talking.
You just keep talking. I am from this and that. I am from this, that, and the other. I am from. That's the name of the poem. Okay? You ready?
No.
Okay, I'm not going to start with you then. Start with you.
I am from Loving Corn on the Cob and Turkey and Stuffing. I am from the Museum of Natural History and the Dinosaur Room. Me too. I am from the basement of my grandparents' house. And my great.
I am from Salisbury Hill. I am from all of Carmina Burana.
I am from working
I am from Laura B., one of my oldest friends from college, that no matter how infrequently we see each other, we are always still friends. I am from the back of the house staff at the Capitol Hilton
I
from
am
the
from
1980s.
the Women's National Democratic Club.
I am from Mom's
Friends
Little
Meeting of
Steak
Washington.
Sandwiches with dill
I am from
pickles.
the Cleveland Park
I am
Historical
from
Society.
Dad's
I am from the Society of the Architectural Historians. I'm a joiner. I'm a real joiner. I like to join things. I like to meet new people. I also like.
I am from my great neighborhood where we never locked our doors unless we were out of town. I am from Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. I am from a town of 25,000 people. I am from Washington, D.C.
The Association of the Oldest Inhabitants. I've been a member for, I don't know, 10 years. I am
from
being up on
Dad's
this
Sunday
stage.
morning waffles. I am from Salisbury Hill. I am from the Capitol Hilton. I am from Rockville now. I'm from.
And we'll stop you here. Beautiful. That was great. I didn't tap you out. I wanted you to keep talking. So I'm going to actually ask out here, because as we do this as a process which helps people sort of generate thoughts and stories, but we also actually incorporate it into performances at times, very often in the way that you saw, which was sort of orchestrated with choral voices. And just so you all were beautiful doing that. And just before we, if you want to sit down, you can feel free to do that, or stay up here, because now we want to talk about you and also to you. But I just wanted to get some thoughts from out here about what that experience was like to witness. Anything come to mind? Sure, thanks.
I thought it was exciting.
And what spoke to you? Thanks.
Inner expression that came out of important things in their lives that were interwoven, spoken all at once.
Yeah, oh, interesting. So the connections between the people's personal things that suddenly became like a communal thing. That did definitely happen here. Yes?
People were tentative at first and just said a little bit. By the end, they were just so enthusiastic.
And that's a very interesting trajectory, though, because, you know, what does that sometimes tell us? Sometimes that can come from, I don't know if what I have to say is what was intended. I don't know if this is good enough. I don't know if I'm doing this exercise right. I don't know. And the I don't know, you didn't really know any better at the end than you did at the beginning. But it's just like, well, if I'm going to be up here, I'm damn well going to do something. Right? And because of that, you started to give us the gift of your stories in a way that was very cool. Comment over here.
So I thought it was fun and funny, especially because you had to tell people to follow the instructions so many times, and so it felt chaotic, you know. But then it turned into a performance, and it was really highly personal to each person. And I thought, fantastic work, you guys. You did follow the instructions, and it turned into something meaningful. So thank you.
Well, and you know what's interesting? I agree. Well, what I was going to say, what was interesting is the reasons people were resistant to the instructions actually became a source of art and creativity. In some cases, the person wanted to elaborate. And so that person, you know, ultimately, as long as we have a basic structure of saying, I am from occasionally, it can accommodate a lot of different, you know, rivulets, which was the unique creativity of this group, meaning we're speaking in one voice out of our many voices. Interesting. I saw some other hands here, and yes. Here and then over here after. Yep. I don't know anybody's name, I'm sorry.
You know what? You have the microphone. So you
Oh, great. Yes, here.
Okay.
Fantastic.
I'm Risa Cole, and
Thanks.
I have two words that once they all started going, you could call it sort of like controlled chaos. Because you really couldn't pinpoint, you couldn't stay with one person because you wanted to hear what this person was saying, and it was all together. So, but it was controlled.
I love that. And, you know, I think that's what art ultimately is controlled chaos, you know, because it has to live in that vibrant we don't know how it's going to turn out in a way. I mean, that's part of what draws us to story and art. On the other hand, we need to be able to relate to it in some way, so the structure gives us that. Yeah.
Hi, I found it very confusing, and I think your intro, why they didn't pick up on it too often, the I am from, I can't be I am from ice cream. I think you need I am from. Give me all these things on here. I'm just thinking that maybe you need a different thing to have go into it that then they can relate to whatever is on
Well,
here.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. And, we inherited this exercise from the teachings of Rebecca Rice, who is a wonderful, if you go way back in DC theater, you will remember Living Stage, which was the community arm of Arena Stage, doing just extraordinary community building work. And these are oral traditions that actually have a deep history. And the I am from piece of it is very central to it. And if we had more time to work, we would. And it always gets a very similar kind of resistance, because what does that mean to say I am from versus, even if it was just I am, people might relate to it a little bit more, but that idea of I like or I do would be more familiar. But I actually put the question out here. What is the difference in saying, or I'll ask it up here as well, I am from? What does that mean? It doesn't have a literal meaning, I agree, because you can't be from ice cream exactly, but you said yes, you can.
Oh, I love ice cream.
So somehow, the fact that you love ice cream, it is formative.
It's emotional.
So this idea of I am from a certain kind of musical influence, I am from my parents, I am from a teacher, I am from a food, I am from a distaste for a food. What is that about? Yes?
I think it's related to these are the things that made me who I am today, shaped my life.
And the piece of that I really relate to is pretty much, goes back to that 88 keys of the piano that we talked about. Yes, the octave is, I do this, I like this, sometimes I am this. But the other 80 keys that we don't play are all of the many, many things, some generations of things, some experiences well remembered, some experiences forgotten until this moment, that make us a really complicated human. So rather than proclaiming I am this, who I am is always changing. What I'm from is always growing, but it continues to be part of who I am. So it's really interesting that you picked up on that, because it is both the sort of most controversial part of this exercise, but for me artistically, the most important part in a way. Comment? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Watching this reminded me of Jesse Jackson 40, 50 years ago saying, I am somebody. And when I saw everybody up on the platform, and they were all talking whether it was I am from or I am, it didn't matter to me. It was like 5 different people all at once telling their stories, and it reminded me of what Dr. King was saying, you are somebody. In other words, your life matters. And that's way before Black Lives Matter. But 50, 60 years ago, that story was being reinforced in Afro-American communities, that you are somebody and you need to be heard.
I think that's so beautiful. And I think that's so beautiful. And I also contain multitudes. I'm not just what you see in this moment, or this is particularly important for us when we work with people who are incarcerated. And it's like one story is being told about one tiny, tiny moment in time very often around that person. And there's so many other things inside their soul bag,
Well, to me, this is like the end of one of your classes, because I could tell it was about soul. I saw soul come out of each one of these, and you all should take the classes. I'm serious. This is what we saw in that little clip that you had. You were wonderful.
You were wonderful.
You were wonderful.
Thank you, Helen. And I actually thank you for that. And I wonder if anybody up here doing the exercise wants to just talk about the experience at all, or if you have anything that you wanted to add. And it could be positive. It could be, how it wasn't challenging enough. I'm okay with that.
I have more of an opportunity to express myself.
And I appreciate you brought your unique flair. But yeah, I just wondered if there's anything you wanted to add. And I have this.
Well, I think it's Loretta's point. I am such and such, but I am from my passions, my emotions. This spoke to that, rather than I am Judy Hubbard. I live at 20. That's just facts. This is me. I love ice cream, and I'm interested in architecture.
Yeah, I love that. And what can be so fascinating when you have a group of people, and very often I'll work with people who have no connection. They don't come to a club, a social gathering in common, or they might think they have like nothing in common. We do sort of work across some typical divides as well. And you're standing up there and you hear these things and you're like, but wait, I'm from that too. But wait, I'm from that too. How can we be so different if we're from these same things? But we just didn't know. Why would we ever have an occasion to say that? So does somebody else up here have a comment? Thanks. Yeah,
I like the I am from. It's kind of a funny context, but I think it adds the substance, the layers, my parents, my family, my influences, my travels, all those little nuggets of your life that layer and layer and layer and continue to layer as we move on with our experiences.
I really appreciate that, and I could feel it here. I want to say thank you so much to you all, and it's Marilyn? Marcy. Sorry, Marcy. Marcy Cohen. Marcy the actress. Couldn't tell. Thank you so much for participating. You gave a great demonstration. So the way that we sometimes use this is, as you can see, some of our shows have scenes and monologues that have been developed through improvisation, but we'll periodically bring this exercise back in performance as a bridge between scenes and all that, to remind us that our very disparate experiences actually often have a common core. So at this point, do I still have a little bit of time to just open it up for some questions, if anybody has them? Yeah.
So I was just going to add to the gentleman about Jesse Jackson. He came to my 7th grade class at Alice Steele Junior High. Keep hope alive. I am somebody. It always stuck with me. But what I was going to add to your I am from is that to me it reminds me of the human being's belonging. I belong to people who love ice cream. I belong, all those things. It reminded me of a famous German psychologist who said all human behavior is motivated by the desire to belong. And like why I love coming to the Association of Oldest Inhabitants is I belong to this group of history nerds. But thank you for pointing that out and for what a great exercise.
I really appreciate that.
I am from. Thank you for sticking to the prompt so gently.
No, I love to hear where it goes, and this is not my first rodeo, but but I did sort of love hearing these very different, not just different experiences, but different ways of expressing one's experience. Yes.
I would like to say how informative this exercise is, and I wish that retired educators or present educators could somehow put this on in the schools, especially in our high schools. There is so much rage and fear and turbulence, and so many of the crime and so forth that we're all experiencing in some form or the other is from people who are from this type of background, from fear, rage, hostility, turbulence. And as you said, they don't come from a nice social background like this. They don't normally have the opportunity to really form social relationships. And so I wish that this could be somehow taken into the high schools and give some of the black children especially, a chance to talk about where they're really from. It would be a horror story to most of us.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree with that. We actually have Life Stories programs in a number of DC schools. We just started one at Cardozo the other day. It's really interesting. I mean, as you might imagine, teens may not always feel like sharing things that, are going to make them seem overly vulnerable or sensitive or, and so sometimes there can be resistance in groups. We don't just use this exercise, but we use a whole lot of things that are about finding our commonalities, understanding that we're not alone, understanding that, because the audiences that we share this with are just as important as the opportunity to do it, because you could be in an audience that doesn't look a thing like you and hasn't shared any of your actual experiences, but who will absolutely cry or stand up and cheer or, because something you're saying is resonating with them on a very deep human level. And so it's one of the things that I think, theater's not the only thing in the world that does this, but it is one of the great tools for helping people to see that our shared humanity is possibly like the most important gift that we have, and that people hear us, they see us, they care, we matter. Yes?
Ironically, my granddaughter, who is now in ninth grade, back when she was in elementary school, and I live way in the upper county of Montgomery County, way out in the country, that elementary school that she attended did this program. And I remember my daughter bringing me what my granddaughter had written when she was in either third or fourth grade. I can't remember which, but it was I Am From. And it was very lengthy and very explicit of what she was from regarding her history, her background, things that she loved, things that she hated. But every sentence began with I am from. And I was amazed when I read this, just amazed. I said, wow, this teacher is brilliant. And this is so many years ago. So they are doing it in the schools.
Well,
at least that teacher.
I mean, that's thrilling. It's thrilling. Because it just, we think about all of the ways where young people are limiting their self-definition, in part because other people are limiting it for them. But one of the Theater Lab's newest programs, which I didn't actually talk about today, is a collective impact project where we are working with young adults who have encountered obstacles to livable wage employment, who were severely affected by the pandemic, disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And we are in a year-long training program with them, teaching them to be technical theater artists. So these are the people who work backstage, the lights, the sound, they build the sets. And what we don't maybe know about the pandemic and its effect on theater, because it's not a well-told story. We keep thinking, well, will audiences come back? Will the theater survive? But the entire workforce left during the pandemic. These backstage jobs, which pay well, they starting wage of $22 to $25 an hour, but it was gig work. And because it was gig work and because there were no theaters producing, people left and went into IT and other things. So the field is wide open. And so we are working right now. We just finished our pilot year with 20 young adults, and now we have 24 who started in January in a year-long program that has a huge amount of social emotional support and scaffolding built in, because we understand if you don't have a sense of where I'm from, that I am from, and also not just who I am, but who I might be, then it is very, very hard to envision yourself as somebody who is going to be able to overcome the many obstacles in our path around education or learning differences, or we work with some young mothers, so having childcare, all of those things. Our program happens to be an Earn While You Learn program, so our students are paid for every hour that they learn as well as every hour that they apprentice in professional theaters, and we offer childcare. But those students they're working all over the place, and they are excellent young professionals, but most of them had not had the chance yet to perceive themselves as people who could be excellent young professionals because they hadn't been introduced to something where you get to be creative and work with your hands and where you don't need necessarily a college degree, and yet you can imagine sort of a path forward. So I believe you that so much of even the best programs that we have, if they're not incorporating that deep dive into self and how that connects into community, we're missing such a foundational piece, you know. And I think that we're catching up to what that might mean. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that the Kennedy Center had an initiative within the last 3 or 4 months that really speaks to your theme of the transformational power of the theater arts. And it was an invitation for people to write into the Kennedy Center nominating a theater arts teacher. Do you know about that?
I do.
And so I'm not sure how many entries they received. I think that it was also promoted in partnership with AMC Theaters. So if you went to see a movie, that they had this, send in, in so many words, your praise for a theater arts teacher, and how that, how that theater teacher has changed your life, transformed your life. So education is a big initiative, a big push of the Kennedy Center, and I just wanted to mention that.
I love that, and actually, I'm really curious to see what then the platform for those teachers who have been nominated becomes. Because I don't know the end point whether the Kennedy Center is going to have them as resident teaching artists or going to honor them in some way that lets them tell their stories of why they're successful. But I mean, it's such a great opportunity.
I meant to do a search of the website before this event, so I could, give more details. But I think they did select, several top educators in the field of theater arts.
No,
please, go ahead. I'm sorry. Have you done any? Oh, have you used this format or anything similar to it for political dialogue? The red versus the blue.
Yeah.
Because this seems like it would be a really interesting.
Yeah.
It is for conversation.
Yes. So we are talking with an organization that specifically works with young women who are from under-resourced communities who are being trained in sort of political leadership and the ideas that they then, it's a local wonderful nonprofit. Since we're not so far along, I won't say what the name is, but then they run for office, and they currently have a congressperson in Illinois and some others. And I was speaking with the director of that who said, well, we're a bipartisan organization. And I thought, well, this is very interesting. And she said, well, you're giving me a look right now, like you're surprised by that. And I said, I'm not surprised. I'm just super intrigued because we've been looking for a partner who might enable us to do this kind of work in a way that has nothing to do with political questions, that is really about sort of who I am and who we are. One of the partners that we do work with talks about the philosophy of, I am who I am because of who we are together. And I think theater is a great vehicle for that, and I am very curious. So I think the short answer, or the long answer is we're about to start a program, I think, with young women from across the aisle. I don't think I'm ready to walk into the halls of Congress and do this yet. I don't have the thick skin enough, the stamina for that. But thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. On behalf, we're going to end on that political note for Deb, and we have a certificate of appreciation for you coming and bringing us so much fun and some extra. I'll take that for you.
Oh, thanks.
And exercises that we might be able to take home for Thanksgiving as you talk about these kind of political exercises on over there.
Wants to get in touch with me, I am deb@theaterlab.org. I would be happy to answer any questions or talk with you about volunteer opportunities or anything else. I've loved being here. I've loved meeting you all, so thank you.
So theater and theaterlab.org would be the place to look for classes and for seminars, and I'm going to guess also for maybe donations for these types of programs, as we're talking about getting them into more and more schools. So theaterlab.org. We will send that to you as well as I'm sure we can set up a fund so that we can all collect money to send Marcy to acting class. Because I think that may be where she needs to go. We need to end on Tim's being history nerds. So since we are all history nerds, we are going to end on history trivia. So I'm going to ask Nelson if he could come up to give us our trivia to go out into the world with.
Okay, this is a big election year, we all know. When President Eisenhower came into office, he proposed that Congress initiate a process to allow the Constitution to be amended, allow the residents of the district to vote for president in the Electoral College and be represented in the House of Representatives, though we were a state. He assigned his vice president, Richard Nixon, to work on this full time, which he did. And he had two staff people, one for the House and one for the Senate, that worked on this. This was how difficult it was to get us anything on it. He was able to get the vote for a president through, and that was sent to the states and ratified in time for the 1964 election. He wasn't successful in getting the House to agree to the voting in the House. The Senate did. And this organization testified on the Hill before both the Senate and House Judiciary Committees in favor of that. So my trivia question is, how many electoral votes do we have? Three? Okay. Oh, I meant to ask, the rules are, if you were already a winner, wait till the end, and we'll give it to you at the very end if nobody gets it. But you're the winner. Okay. Three. Three? Okay. Did you have it already? You got three? Okay, we need a judge of elections here. What?
I heard the voice from over there. So
Okay.
it goes, yes, it goes.
Okay. Okay. Now, interestingly, when Jimmy Carter ran for president, he won the district overwhelmingly, but one of the electors did not show up. Under the law, they have to go to their seat of government, which is our district building, and they record their votes and be certified, which are then sent to the Congress to be announced. Well, one didn't show up, and they couldn't find her for days. And they finally did. She said, I was doing this as a protest because Congress hasn't given us more voting rights. And so that year, only 2 of our 3 electoral votes were actually counted. So the Electoral College is a very tricky thing. We want to really watch it closely this election. Okay, another one involving the presidency. In 1949, pardon? Huh? I forget her name. I meant to look it up this morning. It was a member of the council. Yes, you're right. You're right. Good.
So you get
Yep.
the prize again.
Yep. Well, that would have been my next question, but I didn't know I forgot myself. I went to look it up this morning. In 1949, a future president of the United States was a guest at AOI's 4th of July celebration. And they made a little speech about Independence Day and how important it was to him and the country and so forth. This was held at the old firehouse, which was then our headquarters. So the question is, name this future president who spoke to AOI in 1949.
Jack Kennedy.
Pardon?
Jack Kennedy.
No, that's not correct. That's a good, that would have been nice.
Eisenhower.
No.
Nixon. Carter. Obama. I'm going to guess. Lyndon Johnson.
Who?
Lyndon Johnson.
No, that's a good one. Well, I'll have to. No. Truman was already president, so. Okay, I'll give you another clue. Pardon? Ford. You got it. Gerald Ford. Who actually is our only unelected president. He was appointed indirectly. Okay, my final question is for a Black History Month question that's related to the history of the city. Name this person. You'll have to have a couple of maybe clues, because I think it'll be obvious who it was. Was born as a slave on the Eastern Shore. Frederick Douglass, there you go. But most people don't realize that he was really spent more than half of his life actually in Washington. So I call him a Washingtonian. And he would have been eligible for membership. Would have had enough years in to qualify under our rules to be a member. But so now he lived on Capitol Hill at first with his family, and then moved to an estate in Anacostia, an area which was then called Uniontown. But so the second clue is name the given the name he named his estate. What was the name of his estate? Cedar Hill. There you go. Okay, and I urge people to visit. My wife and I spent an afternoon there. I have some brochures about it, how to get there, and information, and more information about his life. And it's amazing. You walk in, it's almost like the ghost of the man is there. It's just set up like he left. His wife, his second wife, Helen Pitts, which of course was a very controversial marriage at the time, interracial marriage, made great efforts to preserve that. I have a personal little connection to it. I worked for many years for Charles Diggs of Michigan, a Democrat who introduced the legislation that actually moved forward and transferred the property to the federal government to make it a national monument for Douglass. So I have some brochures. Please take one and consider visiting.
Sir, did you know that Frederick Douglass is sex trafficking?
Yeah.
I think that we are going to try to have a new member, somebody coming in. So it was Frederick Douglass's great-great-granddaughter, who is also related to Booker T. Washington. The great-granddaughter of Booker T. Washington, and is also born in Washington. So Cliftine is going to try to bring her in. So we'll have even more of a connection to AOI. Thank you all. Thank you, Deb. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you all for participating and for sharing. And hopefully we will see you next month. Have a safe one.